Thesis.
Marie and Pierre Curie discovered the element radium on December 21st, 1898. Their discovery led to a tragic event where many people died due to radiation poisoning, but also became a turning point in history because it created a treatment for cancer.
Many scientists have been credited for the amazing things they have discovered. Albert Einstein, Isaac Newton, Oppenheimer, but there is one brilliant mind that has been less heard of. And that mind belongs to Marie Curie.
She is arguably one of the most underrated scientists in history, especially for the things she has discovered. One of the many incredible things she discovered is, drumroll please, radium. Radium is an element on the periodic table. The name gives away the fact that it is one of the radioactive elements. You can find radium in the alkaline earth metals section of the periodic table. Radium is a radionuclide. It is formed by the decay of thorium and uranium. Radium has several different types of isotopes. An isotope is an atom that has the same amount of protons but not the same amount of neutrons. Different isotopes have the same value and properties as their other fellow isotopes that fit into that element on the periodic table. There are 34 radium isotopes, but the most commonly known are Ra-226, Ra-228, and Ra-224. Ra-226 is formed by the decay of uranium, while Ra-228 and Ra-224 are formed by the decay of thorium.
The physicist Marie Curie discovered radium when she found it odd just how radioactive a pitchblende was. A pitchblende is an ore containing multiple radioactive elements, including uranium, polonium, thorium, radium, and more. But they didn't know that back then. The pitchblende was 400 times more radioactive than uranium itself. Marie Curie knew there had to be more to this. There had to be more than just uranium in those pitchblendes. So her, along with Pierre, decided to investigate and study the pitchblende, which led to the discovery of radium. What's interesting is how they did it. And they did so via acid. This represents a pitchblende. Now the pitchblende contains multiple radioactive elements, including uranium, polonium, thorium, radium, and more. Now this is acid. Now this specific type of acid can only melt particular elements like uranium, but some elements, like radium and polonium, are resistant to it. They would drop the pitchblende in, and Marie and Pierre would pour the acid out, leaving a mystery sludge at the bottom of the pot. They later found out that this sludge contained radium and polonium to study with. It's good to know who Marie Curie was and why she was important.
Marie Curie played a major role in making radium what it is today. The discovery of X-rays by Henri Becquerel and Wilhelm Röntgen was one of Marie Curie's inspirations to become a scientist. She was fascinated by the concept. Marie was born in Warsaw, Poland, and met Pierre Curie in 1894 at Sorbonne, Paris, where she was continuing her studies after gaining a licentiateship in physical and mathematical science. Pierre Curie was a physics professor. They fell in love and got married the following year. Pierre decided to drop his previous work to work on radioactive science with Marie Curie. Her personal life aside, Marie, along with her husband Pierre, found a pitchblende that contained radium on December 21st, 1898. This fascinated her, so she decided to study it. This discovery was a big deal and led to many turning points in medical history. They officialized radium as an element in April of 1902. In 1903, Pierre Curie was rewarded with a Nobel Prize, but he refused to take it unless Marie Curie would be included. She wasn't included because she was a woman. Thankfully, that same year, she won the Nobel Prize in Physics for her research in radiation phenomena. Later, she won a Nobel Prize in Chemistry. Marie Curie died when she was 66 from aplastic pernicious anemia, a blood disease highly likely caused by her exposure to radiation. She made a sacrifice.
Nothing in life is to be feared. It is only to be understood. Now is the time to understand more so we may fear less. Marie Curie.
Thanks to Marie's work, we found out much more about science and developed a better treatment for cancer, though it brought much pain will be talked about later. It widely progressed radioactive science, and Marie Curie's body and journal are still radioactive to this day and likely will be for the next 1,600 years or probably more. It is important to know why the discovery of radium is such a big deal. It has led to so many turning points in history for the better and the worst. Medical and radioactive science, advancement in products, radium girls, etc., whether that's in the medical field or helped us realize how horrible radioactivity is to the body. It is known that radium is super dangerous by itself.
At the beginning of the 20th century, radium products were very popular. They were thought to be beneficial to people's health and were used in many things, such as hair creams, toothpaste, food items, etc. Radium was often used to make things glow. Radium glows green when mixed with phosphorescent copper-doped zinc sulfide. This was found out in 1908 by none other than Marie Curie and Pierre Curie. Once people became more aware of the dangers and high levels of radioactivity in radium, the demand for radium products died down. Before the 1970s, manufacturers used radium to create objects of all sorts, but typically ones that would help in the dark, like clocks, aircraft switches, and instrument dials. With all these products being bought, someone had to be making them. Introducing the Radium Girls.
The Radium Girls was a horrific incident that doomed some working women at the time. This tragedy occurred in Newark, New Jersey in the late 1920s, when women had started working in factories.
These women were painting watches for soldiers in World War I that would glow in the dark. The radium would be painted on the numbers so that the soldiers would be able to tell the time or see them at night or in the dark. While this might sound dangerous to have radium in a wristwatch, so long as the radium is contained and sealed, it would pose no threat to the soldiers wearing them. However, for the female workers who made those watches, they were not so fortunate. To have the radium on the watches, somebody had to put it on there, and that someone is the aforementioned Radium Girls. The truly horrific part was the fact that to paint the numbers, the paintbrushes had to be at a fine point because the numbers were teeny tiny. And how did they get such a fine point? Well, they licked them! After painting some numbers, they would lick the paintbrushes and dip the paintbrush back in the radium. They didn't wipe them off before licking. I need to say this again.
They licked the radium paintbrushes.
Safe to say, that was a really bad idea. The women were paid well, but their bosses and higher-ups would isolate themselves from the women and their work.
5 former workers got very sick and sued the company. The state's 2-year statute of limitations did hinder their case, though. In January and April 1928, the women testified in court, and the Radium Corporation was suspended until September of that same year. They received backlash due to the delay. This was a turning point in history because it not only killed multiple innocent women, but it also taught people how dangerous radium was and how sick it could make you, teaching people to not make the same mistake again with other radioactive elements. This is why it is important to learn about the goods and bads of history, because it informs us about our past mistakes so we don't do them again. Humans don't want history repeating itself, and being educated will help society learn from their mistakes so we can progress. Cancer has been a problem since the beginning of time. People have been looking for ways to cure it or treat it with cannabis oil or caustic paste. In the 20th century, scientists found a way to implant radioactivity into cancer cells to arrest them using thin spurts of radioactivity. These were sometimes called radium needles because of their shape. There were several studies throughout the United States. All of them studied how well radium Ra-223 worked in treating people with prostate cancer. Dichloride is a radioactive drug that can be put in through the vein and is taken up by bones once in the body. Radioactive drugs give off energy which stops the cancer cells and cells that support the tumor. Cancer cells are less able to repair broken DNA than a normal cell. Using light rays of radiation directed at a cancer cell would only harm the cancerous cells, causing it to either shrink or disappear completely. This is a turning point in history because many people's lives were saved. Today, radium is no longer used in medical treatments anymore due to it being very risky and dangerous to be so directly exposed to so much radioactivity. Though it was very deadly and dangerous, it was our first stepping stone into further advancing technology. In conclusion, Marie Curie, along with her husband, worked hard to achieve their discoveries, which led to many changes and turning points in history for the good and the worse. It is really important that the future of society is educated and has learned from past mistakes. Thank you for watching.